Hey everyone, I'm Danny and welcome to Wizardry Workshop. First of all, Happy New Year. This is my first video of the new year of 2022. Pretty excited. I hope this video kind of starts the year off good. We're going to be making a prop replica of the book When Muggles Attack. And this is a book from like the Dolores Umbridge era of the Ministry of Magic and all that stuff, like when there was all the anti-Muggle propaganda and stuff going on. That's when this book was from. Remember to give this video a thumbs up if you did like it, and if you're new here and you enjoy my Harry Potter DIY projects that I do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to become part of our magical crafting community. Check out the description box below for a list of supplies I use to make this project, as well as the free downloadable template, and let's get started. We need an old book, and this could be any old book. This one is called In Search of Serenity, so if you want to find this exact one, you can try, but I mean, it's a pretty old one. It's from 1955 is when the copyright's from, so I mean, you'll have to really search if you want to find the exact one that I have. If you want to make this exactly like mine is, the size of book you will need is 5 1/4 inches wide by 8 inches tall with a 3/4 inch wide spine. Otherwise, you could make your own little book block. I've done it a couple of times on the channel. I'll link those videos in the description box below. What I'm doing is just using an old book because it's full of content, so it looks better when you're flipping through rather than just having a bunch of blank pages. And it's already bound, so that makes it easier. But what we want to do is release this cover from the actual book block, the text block that's in here. And with an old book, it's already kind of falling apart, so it works out a lot better. I'm just going to use a little X-Acto knife here, and I'm just going to cut right down where this page is sort of attached to the spine. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we've got one side released now. It's just the back we need to do right here. There's some bookbinding cloth. If you can find that, that's right where you want to cut along. We don't really need this, but you could save it if you want to use it for like making another book prop or something. So I'll probably do that. Some of you guys are probably like, can't believe that I just cut this book, but you know what? I'm giving it another life right now. The good thing about doing this is that the spine is already bound now. So I don't have to make this part. This part is already done. Sometimes there will be maybe a little bit of extra. It might look a little bit too thick down along this edge right here. And if that's the case, you can just sort of trim that bulky part off from the book spine there. You don't want to cut the pages. I'm just cutting like the extra bit of that like hard part on the spine that's been glued previously. Unfortunately, some of these pages did start coming apart from the book spine right here. It happens. I mean, it's going to happen. We can fix that with just a little bit of PVA glue. The goal here is just to take a little bit of the glue, put it on the edge of the part that is falling off. So just right along the edge of this little signature, this little book signature here. Then you can sort of just put it where it's supposed to go and pinch it against that spine again. And just let it sit for a little while, and that should do it. Next, we want this interior page that I designed. So it is the title page for the book, When Muggles Attack, and it does have some stamps on it, and then the reverse side has them kind of like bleeding through a little bit. And that's printed double-sided on plain white paper. The reverse side has a little bit more of this design. It's a little bit larger coming off the edges here, whereas this one's a tiny bit smaller. That's called bleed. So this side has bleed and this side does not. That means when you cut this out, you don't have to worry about the sides matching up exactly. So you won't have to worry about having any white paper showing after you've cut this side. We're just going to cut this out with the front of the page facing up. And there we have it. And so if you line up the corners here on the outside of the book, it does line up. And then if you flip it over or look at the spine, you can see there's some extra. That is so that we can glue this in onto the spine. First, you want to sort of like fold this page around the shape of your book. If you're using an old book, there might be a little bump there, which for mine there is. So I want this page to be just like that. I'll probably cut off a little bit more of this. I don't want it to cover the whole spine. I just want it to kind of go in maybe by about 1/4 of an inch or so. It should just go in a little bit, just like this, not even halfway down. That's good. That's what we want. So we're ready to glue this. To do this, you are going to need a piece of scrap paper, 2 pieces of scrap paper if you have them. If not, you can just rip one in half. 1 piece of scrap paper is going to go right about here. So here's where it actually folds onto the spine, and you want that scrap paper to be a little bit over from that. 1/4 of an inch or so should do it. And then the other piece of scrap paper will go underneath both of those. For this, you could use your PVA glue or a glue stick. I'm just going to use a glue stick because it dries faster. It's a little bit easier. So now we've got our glue, and then we just want to line this page up just about how we had it before. Wrap the glued part around the back of the spine just like this. Once you have that page glued in there, it should open up and you should have a new title page, When Muggles Attack. I actually got the colors like pretty close. Happy with that. Next thing we need is the cover template. I have printed mine on 11 by 17 cardstock, and it is double-sided. So here's like the end paper, and as you can see right here, we've got a little book label here that says, "From the library of Dolores Jane Umbridge." So we're pretending this is Umbridge's book. And don't worry, if you don't have the ability to print on 11 by 17 paper, I do have a regular letter size 8.5 by 11 template. However, it comes in 3 parts. You've got the back, the front, and then the spine, all 3 separate, which then you would all glue together into a large sheet like this, and then the rest of the tutorial is going to be the same. We've got a few guidelines up here too. So the black lines are where you're supposed to cut, and then the red lines, which are on either side of the spine, is where you're supposed to score this. So I'm going to go ahead and score it first and then cut. The way I'm going to cut this so that I can follow these cut guidelines that we have is I'm just going to line up my ruler with the guides, and then I'm going to cut, but I'm not going to cut from all the way from like the edge to edge to cut this piece all the way off. Otherwise, I lose those other cut guidelines on there. I'm actually only going to cut it about 1 inch in from there, and then make a cut down here, and not quite to the end of the paper down here. That way we have like a slit in the paper, so it's been cut, but it's not falling off of there, and we can still use these other guides. Next, we can go ahead and cut all the way from edge to edge this time, because these are the last cuts we need to make. And then these pieces come off as well, and we are left with just the cover and the end papers on the inside. And I've made my score marks. If you didn't make your score marks on there, you could have just folded the paper by hand, but the score marks really give it a better fold and make the book look a lot more professional, because you've got those nice, straight, precise folds just like that. And onto the home stretch, we're going to glue the cover onto our book. So the book is right here. We do need some scrap paper so that we don't get glue on the table. And we're going to need a couple more pieces of scrap paper to protect the cover where we don't want glue to go, just like we did for the interior page. You always want to go in first and wrap the cover around the book just to make sure that it's all the right size and it looks like it's folded properly and it's going to fit on the book. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just double checking everything. Everything looks pretty good, but I do think I'm going to have a tiny bit of overlap from the spine and the actual like book text block on the inside. So if that occurs after I'm all done, I will just trim that down so that it's nice and flush. It's not very much, so it's not a huge deal, but let's glue this on. So now the way this works is we've got the actual cover face down on top of some scrap paper, and I have 2 additional pieces of scrap paper that are going to go on either side of the spine, and I can see where my folds are because I scored it. And so I just want to go about a 1/4 inch or maybe a tiny bit more than a 1/4 inch away from that spine. I can add some paper weights right here just to make sure that my paper doesn't move while I'm gluing. And then of course we are going to need some glue, and I'm going to use the PVA glue for this and a brush. And you just take that PVA glue and just put some glue on your spine right here. You don't want to do too much. You don't want the paper to get so saturated that like it wrinkles, but you want to put enough so that it's going to stick to the text block. Just a nice even light coat, I would say. And my paper is actually starting to do a little bit of warping right now, so I'm going to stop while I'm ahead and get my text block onto this book cover. Now it's time to center this and glue it on. And if your book has little imperfections, mine does. Mine has like some bumps around where the spine kind of splays out a little bit. I want my cover to match that. So that'll hold it on a lot better. So I am going to do the same thing as I did before with the interior page, and I'm going to make it sort of form to that shape. I'm also sort of rolling it a little bit on the table to get that to be flat right there for where the spine is. What you want to do is let it sit for at least a half hour. I'd probably go an hour is what I'm going to do. And then we're going to come back and correct any imperfections that might be present. It has been a little bit over a half hour now, so we're going to take a look at this book. And it does feel dry, and there is definitely a tiny bit of overlap right here, which I am going to cut off, and I'll show you how. But for the most part, we want to just kind of open it up and make sure it looks good, the parts that we added. And yeah, I think that looks pretty nice. And then the part in the back. Yes, it is all glued in properly. Now let's trim off that extra. It might be a little bit hard to see because it's green on green. There is a little bit of this cover that is going out a bit further than the book pages, and I want to trim that off. I'm going to use my X-Acto knife and a ruler, but we want to make sure that the X-Acto knife has a brand new blade in it, because when we're trying to do something like this, you just want to make sure that there's not going to be any tearing or anything. So I have put a brand new blade in my X-Acto knife. And next, I'm just going to put my ruler in there, and then I will scoot it over until it's flush with the end of the interior pages, which looks like about right there. And now I can kind of hold that down and open the book a little bit, and then I can use my X-Acto knife to trim off all that extra. There's actually more being trimmed off than I expected, so the cover's not going to be exactly centered. It's actually cut off a little bit too much there. I hope the front cover looks a little bit better than the back. Okay, good. The front cover looks a lot better than the back. The back got a little bit messed up over here because apparently this was not centered exactly like I wanted it to be. And now we have our finished book, When Muggles Attack. And it is, we've basically just turned a hardback into a paperback. We've got the inside where it says it's the property of Dolores Umbridge. We have the cover page where it says When Muggles Attack. There's the back cover, front cover. I think this turned out really nice, and I like kind of repurposing old books that no one's ever gonna use anymore. What is this? What? Does anybody know what this is? Wait a second. That looks like... Hold on a second. It reminds me of like a code breaking thing where you would like overlay this on top of the words and it would reveal like a secret code or something. That's crazy. Huh. I wonder what I just found. If anybody knows what that is, let me know in the comments section below. But I'm going to keep it in there because that's kind of cool. Let me know what you guys think of this because I am pretty happy with how this turned out. I didn't know how this was going to turn out, transforming a vintage hardback book into a paperback book, but it actually turned out better than I thought. It looks like an actual book to me anyways. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. And again, if you know what that little like decoder thing is, let me know because that's kind of cool. As usual with the projects that I make, I will be giving this one away. So there's a giveaway link in the description box below. If you are interested in winning this, go ahead and check that link out. I have winners to announce pretty soon for a couple of my past giveaways, which I'll be doing in my next DIY video coming up very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.